everyone, and welcome back. Yet another video, yet another day, and today is Thursday, which means we are going to be tackling a math activity. And today's math activity is something that we all learn, but sometimes just have a little bit of trouble with. So that's why we're doing it today, to break down that stigma of fear. We are going to tackle it, and we are going to master it with practice. So what are we doing today? I'll just have to wait and tell you after we talk about our riddle. So our riddle today, I think, is a really funny one. I'll just tell you. So, why are teddy bears never hungry? I'll let you guys think about it, and as always, at the end of our video, we will revisit our riddle and figure it out together. Now, let's get to our math activity. It's a good one, guys. All right, guys, here I am. I have my number line, I've got my Post-it notes and my Sharpie, and we are ready to talk about number lines. So, what are we doing? What are we talking about? Let me break it down for you. So, a number line offers multiple sides. The negative side, oh yes, I said negative, and the positive side. So, we all know a little bit about the positive side, but I know a lot of folks have never heard of the negative side. So we're not going to go into too much depth about it, but I did want to introduce it, and I did want to start to talk about negatives as we continue to grow our math skills. So let's talk about it. So we have our 0 here, right? What do you think would be next if we are counting in the negatives? -1, good job. So I'm going to write that up here. -1, and any chance what you think might be next? -2, really good job. And I'm sure you're catching the trend here. What do you think the next two are? -3, -4. Man, you guys are naturals. -4, -3. So, again, we're not going to go into too much depth about our negatives because we're just learning about them. It's a skill we're just starting to cultivate. So don't stress yourselves out about it. I did want to put it on your radar because we are going to learn it eventually. So why not become a little familiar with it? So now that we've talked about our negatives, let's move on to our positives. So as you can see, I have my 0 right here, and I have some random Post-it notes. All right. We all know that after 0 comes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and I could keep on going, right? This activity is designed to challenge you. So I want you guys to think a little bit. I want you to take your Post-it notes, and I want you to write 3 random numbers. Random numbers. All right, let's see. I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go 6, and my last one, I think I'm gonna make 10. We're gonna keep it a little on the lower side of our number side. So what are we talking about? We've got 3, so that means in between here we need to take our Post-it note, and we shall write, oh, sorry, my Post-it notes got a little stuck. So between 0 and 3 we have 1 and 2. Let's go ahead and write that down. And now we have 3 to 6. Does anything go between that, or do we think we just jump to 6? Good job. We do have numbers in between there. What do we think they are? 4 and 5? Good job. Ooh. All right, now our last little space is in between 6 and 10. Oh no, our 1 and our 2 fell off. Let me put up a new one. Hopefully this one sticks a little better. So 1 and 2, perfect. Now, we've got to figure out what's between 10 and 6, right? These are the last numbers we have left in our little challenge. So let's think. If we're counting, we know that there are 4 numbers between 6 and 10, right? Because 6 plus 4 equals 10. Good job. So let's think. Let's do some counting. we're going to do 7, 8, and 9. And then we get 10. Good job, guys. So, is there anything else you think we could use a number line for? Did you just say addition? Good job. Did you just say subtraction? Wow, you guys are blowing my mind. Multiplication? Division? Yes. We can use all of these things, all of these operations to break it down on the number line. Oh yeah, we can recognize patterns and begin to get a little less intimidated by what's going on. We can do this by counting by twos. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We begin to get more familiar with the 2 times table. We can do it with 5s, 5, 10, 15, 20, so on and so forth. The more we break down that kind of scaredness, that kind of intimidation and fear surrounding math, the easier it becomes. And I hope this was just a little bit helpful in doing that. All right, so now that we've talked a little bit about our number line, let's jump right into our positive action. Today, our positive action or positive tip is going to focus on the importance of being persistent. Now, persistence is a pretty broad thing, but in this sense, I'm talking about it as not letting anything stop you or deter you from your goal or your ambitions. So, what do I mean? I mean that when you have a dream or when you have a goal, that you continue to work towards it, even when things are extremely rough. So, an example of persistence can be you're doing your math homework and it is just not working out in your brain. It's just not making sense. But that's okay. You persist and you try your best. That is perseverance. Another example of perseverance is, say you're at school and you're running the mile, but your ankle doesn't like the mile. It's not working out. They're not friends. And you persevere through it and you finish. Was it hard? Probably. Was it painful? Maybe a little bit, but you did it. You did it, you persevered. Now, when I talk about perseverance, I'm talking about committing to ourselves to the goal of wanting to get better. What do I mean by that? I talk about that a lot, don't I? About committing ourselves to becoming better, to reaching our full potential. And that's because we all deserve to be the best versions of ourselves. And if we give up on that, we never get there. But if we persevere, because life is not always going to be easy, life is not always going to be simple, there's going to be rough spots, there's going to be difficult decisions, and if we let that deter us from reaching our goals aren't going to happen. We're just going to kind of not grow, not become better or bolder, and that's not how we want to live. We want to live bold. We want to live loud. We want to be the best we can be. We want to be the kindest people we can to ourselves and to those around us. And persistence helps us get there. It helps us grow in character and in life. So, now that we've talked just a little bit about persistence, let's move on to our book. It's that time again, guys. We are jumping right back into our book, James and the Giant Peach. We just ran into some cloud men who apparently are making snow, hail, and rain. I think it's a really fun way to think about how rain could be made. So let's keep on reading. It's hailstones, whispered James excitedly. They've been making hailstones, and now they're showering them down to the people of the world below. Hailstones? The centipede said. That's ridiculous. This is summertime. You don't have hailstones in the summertime. They're practicing for winter, James told him. I don't believe it, shouted the centipede, raising his voice. Shh, the others whispered, and James said softly, For heaven's sake, centipede, don't make so much noise. The centipede roared with laughter. Those imbeciles couldn't hear anything, he cried. They're deaf as doorknobs. You watch. And before anyone could stop him, he'd cupped his front feet to his mouth and started yelling at the cloudmen as loud as he could. Idiots! Nincompoop! Half-wits! What on earth do you think you're doing over there? The effect was immediate. The cloudmen jumped around as though they'd been stung by wasps. And when they saw the great golden peach floating past them, not 50 yards away in the sky, they gave a yelp of surprise and dropped their shovels to the ground. And there they stood in the moonlight, streaming down all over them. absolutely motionless, like a group of tall, white, hairy statues, staring and staring at the gigantic fruit as it went sailing by. The passengers on the Peach, all except the centipede, sat frozen in terror, looking back at the Cloudmen, wondering what was going to happen next. "Oh, now you've done it, you loathsome pest," whispered the earthworm to the centipede. "I'm not frightened of them," shouted the centipede. And, to show everybody once again that he wasn't, he stood up to his full height and started dancing about, making insulting signs at the Cloudmen, with all 42 of his legs. This evidently infuriated the Cloudmen beyond belief. All at once they spun around and grabbed great handfuls of hailstones and rushed to the edge of the cloud and started throwing them at the Peach, shrieking with fury this time. "Look out!" cried James. "Quick, lie down, lie flat on the deck." It was lucky they did. The large hailstones can hurt. They feel like a rock or a lump if they're thrown hard enough. And my goodness, how these Cloudmen could throw. The hailstones came whizzing through the air like bullets from machine guns, and James could hear them smashing up against the sides of the Peach, burying themselves into its flesh with horrible squishing noises. Plop, 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 and then ping, 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 as they bounced off the poor ladybird's shell because she couldn't lie as flat as the others. And then crack, as one of them hit the centipede right on the nose, and crack again as another one hit someone else. "Ow!" he cried. "Ow! Stop, stop, stop!" But the Cloudmen had no intention of stopping. James could see them rushing about on the cloud like a lot of hairy ghosts, picking up hailstones from the pile, dashing to the edge of the cloud and hurling them at the Peach. "Quickly," James cried, "down to the tunnel or we'll all be wiped out." There was a rush for the tunnel's entrance, and half a minute later everybody was safely downstairs inside the stone. "I'm a wreck," groaned the centipede. "I am wounded all over." "It serves you right," said the earthworm. "Would anybody kindly look over my shell and see if it's cracked?" "Give us some light," shouted the grasshopper. "I can't. They've broken my bulb." "Then put in another one." "Be quiet a moment," said James. "Listen, I do believe they're not hitting us anymore." They all stopped talking and listening. Yes, the noise had ceased. The hailstones no longer were smashing against the Peach. "They have left them behind. The seagulls must have pulled us out of the danger." "Hooray! Let's go and see." Cautiously, James went out first. They all climbed up the tunnel. James poked his head out to see. "All clear," he called. "I can't see them anywhere." Part 28. One by one, the travelers came out again to the top of the Peach and gazed carefully around. The moon was still shining as brightly as ever, and there was still plenty of huge shimmering cloud mountains on all sides. But there were no Cloudmen in sight. "The Peach is leaking," shouted the old green grasshopper, peering over the side. "It's full of holes, and the juice is dripping out everywhere." "That does it. If the Peach is leaking, then we shall surely sink." "Don't be a booger," the centipede told him. "We're not in the water now." "Oh, look," shouted the ladybird. "Look, look, look, over there." Everybody swung around. In the distance, and directly ahead of them, they now saw the most extraordinary sight. It was a kind of arch, a colossal curvy-shaped thing that reached high up into the sky and came down again at both ends. The ends were resting upon a huge flat cloud that was as big as a desert. "Now what in the world is that?" "It's a bridge, an enormous hoop cut in half." "It's a giant horseshoe standing upside down." "Stop me if I'm wrong," muttered the centipede, "but might those not be the Cloudmen climbing over that?" There was dreadful silence. The Peach floated closer and closer. "They are Cloudmen. There's hundreds of them, thousands, millions." "I don't want to hear it," shrieked the poor blind earthworm. "I'd rather be on the end of a fish hook than used as bait to come up against those terrible creatures again." "I'd rather be fried alive and eaten all in one," wailed the old green grasshopper. "Please keep quiet," whispered James. "It's our only hope." They crouched very still on top of the Peach, staring at the Cloudmen. The whole surface of the cloud was literally swarming with them, and there were hundreds more up above, climbing about on the monstrous arch. "But what is that thing?" whispered the ladybird, "and what are they doing?" I don't care what they're doing to it, the centipede said, scuttling over to the tunnel's entrance. I'm not staying up here. Goodbye. But the rest of them were too frightened or too hypnotized to move. Do you know what? James whispered. What? They said what? That enormous arch. They seem to be painting it. They've got pots and pans and big brushes. You look. And he was quite right. The travelers were close enough now to see exactly what the Cloudmen were doing. They had all big brushes in their hands, and they were splishing and splashing paint onto the great curvy arch in a frenzy of speed. So fast, in fact, that in a few minutes the whole arch became covered in the most glorious colors. Reds, blues, greens, yellows, purples. It's a rainbow, everyone said at once. They are making a rainbow. Oh, isn't it beautiful? Just look at those colors. Centipede, they shouted, you must come up and see this. They were so enthralled by the beauty and the brilliance of the rainbow, they forgot to keep their voices low any longer. The centipede poked his head cautiously out of the tunnel's entrance. Well, 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 I've always wondered how those things are made, but why all those ropes? What are they doing with those ropes? Good heavens, they must be pushing it off into the clouds, cried James. There it goes. They're lowering it down to the earth with ropes. And I'll tell you something else, the centipede said sharply. But if I'm not greatly mistaken, ourselves, we are going to bump right into it. Bless my soul, he's right, said the grasshopper. The rainbow was now dangling in the air below the cloud. The peach was also just below the level of the cloud, and it was heading straight towards the rainbow. We're lost, Miss Spider cried, wringing her feet again. The end has come. I can't stand it. Tell me what's happening, wailed the earthworm. We're going to miss it, shouted the ladybird. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Yes, yes, no. Oh, my heavens. Hold on, everybody, James called out, and suddenly there was a tremendous thud as the peach went crashing into the top of the rainbow. This was followed by an awful splintering noise that the enormous rainbow snapped right across the middle and became two separate pieces. The next thing that happened was extremely unfortunate. The ropes that the Cloudmen had been using for lowering the rainbow got tangled up with the silk strings that went up when the peach and the seagulls. The peach was trapped. Panic, pandemonium broke out amongst the travelers. James Henry Trotter, glancing up at the men, quickly saw their faces. Thousands of them, furious Cloudmen, peering down at him over the edge of the cloud. The faces had almost no shape, but they were long white hairs that had covered them. There were no noises, no mouths, no ears, no chins, only eyes were visible in the face, two small black eyes, glinting mischievously through the hairs. Then came the most frightening thing of all. One Cloudman, a huge, scary creature, must have been 14 foot tall at least, suddenly stood up and made a tremendous leap off the side of the cloud, trying to get one of the silk strings above the peach. James and his friends saw him go flying through the air above, his arms outstretched in front of him, reaching for the nearest string, and they saw him grab it and cling to it with his hands and legs. And then, very slowly, hand over hand, he began to come down the string. Mercy, help us, save us, cried the ladybird. He's coming down to eat us. Then eat the earthworm first, shouted the centipede. Centipede, yelled James. Quickly, bite through the string that he's coming down. Oh no, craziness is about to happen. Make sure you stay tuned to see what we'll read next. Now, it's time for our riddle. Who remembers our riddle from the beginning of the video? You don't? No worries, I've got you covered. Our riddle was, why don't teddy bears ever eat? Why aren't they hungry? Do you want to know the answer? Did you already figure out the answer? I'm sure you already did, but just in case, I'm here to help. The answer is because they're stuffed. Get it? Because they're stuffed animals, but also because they ate so much they're stuffed. It made me giggle, and I hope it makes you as well. So, tune in tomorrow to see what we get up to. Bye! Thank you for watching.